Alright, we got a new product review for GearBest.com today. Check out the link down below in the description to this model. It's supposed to be waterproof, which is great because this time of year we got a lot of rain and stuff going on, so let's just dig right into it and see what we got. GearBest has supplied us with the WLtoys number 12428 for review. Now, that's not exactly a catchy name, so for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to call it Bob. It is pretty similar to a number of other RCs on the market, but the price really makes it stand out. Normally it's around $200 Canadian, but right now it's actually on sale for $110. This means you cannot expect axial or Traxxas level of quality, but we should have something reasonable. Keep this in mind throughout the video, as I'm going to rate this model based on value and quality for its normal price. We'll start with the 2.4 GHz remote. The grip is suggestive of a Traxxas TQI, while just being somewhat less plump and not quite as comfortable. I think the throttle lever is a tad on the flimsy side, but it should be good enough for normal usage. Its compact size makes it very light, but with 4AA batteries installed, it gains a bit of needed weight to feel more substantial. There's no cool buttons or screens to entertain you, and I feel the on-off switch is quite small. You can, however, operate the throttle and steering with one hand, which is always nice if you make videos and need to aim a camera while driving. On the whole, it fits my hand, seems quite responsive, reasonably well built, and serves its purpose well. Considering you can easily spend $200 on a radio alone, I have to give it a 7 out of 10. The manual has a bunch of useful information and detailed images of how the truck is put together, as well as part numbers for each and every component. It also has some classic literature to read through. It's a pretty typical case of computer-generated translation errors, and while amusing, it can make understanding sections difficult if you have had no prior experience with an RC before. So although it is reasonable, it needs a bit more polish on the text side of things. 6 out of 10. I was genuinely surprised by this model. It has some really nice weight to it for its size, and there is definitely more metal than I have seen on the other two trucks I reviewed so far. Some of you may remember that I broke part of the chassis on the first model I reviewed. But Bob actually has an aluminum skid plate on its underside to help prevent just such an issue. It's almost like they knew I'd be looking for this. It has metal axles, UV, and CV joints throughout the driveline, which I was not anticipating. But sadly, the gearing is still just plastic, but I guess that's fairly typical for any small RC. The manual seems to think the truck isn't waterproof, even though it claims right on the box that it is waterproof. Never run an RC model in the seeper or rain, moisture areas, or it may cause the parts malfunction. But it's waterproof. I'm going to side with the box and online description over a fairly generic manual, so either the wording is left in the manual by mistake, or on purpose in the event that someone fries something and wants to take legal action. If you want to get all geeky, no RC is really water, quote, proof. They are almost always water resistant. I would be hesitant throwing this RC into a pool, but I hope it'll at least be able to handle some puddles. Keep your eyes out for the next video on this truck, where we will run it and give it some final thoughts. Like other similar models, it utilizes independent pushrod front suspension and a live rear axle. The shocks are not oil filled, but I think they will handle alright for this model's weight, and they could always be upgraded with aftermarket dampers if desired. Being a Baja style truck, you are given a spare wheel for decoration, but it is actually a real wheel and tire, so if you ever break one, you do have a replacement. The neon green plastic, most likely nylon, is what I would describe as flexible. Very flexible. It was about 10 degrees Celsius in the garage when I was filming this, and it was still very bendable. But this is a good thing, as it should be able to take plenty of abuse without shattering due to brittleness. The body panels are entirely printed from the inside, so there are no stickers to peel off with age. However, as they were covering up the guts of the beast, I had to rip one off to see what's inside. Now, there's not much information about this truck, but it turns out to use a 540 size brush motor. For anyone not familiar to RCs, this is a typical 10th scale motor, but I wasn't expecting to find it in this 12th scale model. Especially because the Faiui, yeah, whatever. Let's just call it Jeff, is a direct competitor to this model and only uses a 390 size motor. This power increase is significant, and literally right out of the box, as in I didn't even charge the battery,
This Bob can pull wheelies. I have previously reviewed the Jeff, and one of the biggest complaints I had other than the top heaviness was that the steering had so much dead space on center. I mean, look how much I have to move the controller before the wheels react. And when they do react, they move too far. This haphazard steering response really makes anyone who tries to drive it look like they're a bit sozzled. Bob is vastly improved in comparison. The steering is quick and accurate, with perhaps the only minor issue being centering from either direction. Sometimes it centers better after having turned left than right. Bob also has slightly firmer tire compound, which should let them wear longer in comparison to Jeff's tires that were very soft and really took a beating on its very first run. Now, I don't want to beat this to death, but I have talked in the last couple of reviews about the chargers included with these models, and there have been some viewers who have not quite got the point I'm trying to make. Bob comes with a charger intended for 220 to 240 volts, but here in Canada, we use 120. You can connect an adapter like this to allow you to use the European plug in North America, but it will likely take longer to charge the battery since the voltage is lower. Makes sense, right? And it already takes us 3 hours to charge with the correct charger anyways. Ideally, you want a charger designed for your country, as I got with Jeff. Unfortunately, the only charger available with Bob is the one on the right. So unless you plan on running your own compatible battery and charger, or buying a proper voltage converter, you will just have to ask GearBest for a simple adapter and just be patient during charging. I'm fortunate enough that Jeff and Bob's batteries are the same, so I can use the charger I got previously. I can only give the charger 6 out of 10 because although it does work, WLtoys doesn't offer the truck with different countries' chargers. So we've been through a lot of features here, but what do I not like about Bob? The charger, as I just explained. It uses Phillips Hardware instead of hex. Not usually the way to go, but at the same time, I do hate using Allen keys, so being able to just put a Phillips bit in my drill driver is fine by me, frankly. The shocks are not oil-filled, which should affect the handling abilities, but I'll know more after I get it out for a real drive. The servo, receiver, and speed controller are all proprietary and non-upgradable without replacing all three. However, as the motor and servo are typical sizes, you could still upgrade Bob. Simply buy a hobby-grade radio and receiver, and then you'll be able to put in whatever servo, ESC, or motor you want. Lastly, I just feel some of the steering components are slightly more flimsy than I'd like to see. Thicker fiberglass reinforced plastic would have been nice, but we'll see how it wears. So for marks out of 10 for the actual truck, I'd give it an 8.5. It's pretty amazing that they can build something to this quality for relatively little money. So we've got 7 out of 10 for the radio, 6 out of 10 for the manual, 6 out of 10 for the charger, and 8.5 out of 10 for the truck. Again, I want to stress that my rating is based on quality and value for its normal price. So is this hobby grade? Well, it's very close. Very. If the 5 issues I had with this truck were addressed, it would definitely be what I consider hobby grade. As it stands though, just like the other model I reviewed, I'd call it an entry-level hobby grade. Better electronics would have pushed it over the edge though. On the whole, I'm impressed by this model and would much sooner spend my hard-earned cash on it over the few. If you found this video helpful, let me know by smashing the like button. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/MrRCFanatic, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the run and final thoughts video on this truck. See y'all next time.